You've probably heard stories where justice takes a dark turn. But this one hits different. Imagine being a teenager, barely out of high school, dragged into a courtroom where your entire future hangs by a thread. The judge's gavel slams down, delivering a life sentence that feels like a death sentence with slower paperwork. The courtroom falls silent, the family falls apart, and for a few gut-wrenching moments, it feels like the system has swallowed another innocent soul whole. But hold on, because what happened next didn't just bend expectations, it shattered them out of nowhere. A mysterious message pops up on a defense lawyer's phone. Security footage gets re-examined, eyewitnesses break down, and just when you think you've seen it all, the real culprit stands up, mid-trial, and confesses in front of everyone. Public confession, courtroom tears, sentence overturned. Yep, all of that, and more. This isn't just a story about a courtroom drama. It's a wake-up call about truth, perseverance, and how one unexpected twist can turn despair into standing ovation moments. So if you've ever doubted that one single piece of new evidence could change a person's entire life, stick around, because what you're about to witness will redefine your understanding of justice. The air inside the courtroom felt heavier than usual that day. You know that kind of stillness where even the hum of the air conditioner feels loud. That's exactly how it was. The teenager sat there, hands trembling, barely able to meet anyone's gaze. The judge flipped through his papers with a stern face that gave away nothing. Everyone knew the verdict was coming, but no one could have guessed just how gut-wrenching the next few seconds would be. Then it happened. The judge's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Life in prison. That's it. 2 words. But enough to snatch the air from every pair of lungs in that room. The courtroom fell silent, almost as if time itself hit pause. Even the prosecutor, who had argued relentlessly for this outcome, blinked and shifted in his seat. The defense lawyer's shoulders slumped like someone hit him with a truckload of bricks, and the teenager just sat there, frozen. Some people gasped. Others covered their mouths in disbelief. The media folks standing in the back quickly scrambled to jot notes. Capturing this historic courtroom silent moment, one reporter even whispered, "This is front-page material." But none of that mattered to the teenager staring at the floor, pale and hollow, as though he had already aged 10 years in 10 minutes. It was like watching someone's entire life slip through their fingers in real time. And here's the thing, no one tells you about moments like this. They don't come with background music or dramatic slow-motion effects like in the movies. It's just raw, human shock. The teenager's family sat behind him, wide-eyed, waiting, hoping, praying for some cosmic glitch that would undo what they'd just heard. But little did they know, this emotional roller coaster was only just getting started. Before anyone could fully process the life sentence, the teenager's mother erupted from her seat like a force of nature. You know that kind of scream that feels like it comes from your bones, not your throat. That was her. "My son is innocent," she shouted, her voice slicing through the thick courtroom silence like a siren in the night. People turned, gasping, some clutching their chests as if they felt her pain firsthand. Tears streamed down her face as she lunged toward the judge's bench, only to be restrained by security. The defense lawyer dropped his head, burying his face in his hands, visibly shaken. Family despair settled over the rows like a dark fog, suffocating everyone present. Her words, raw, messy, full of love and rage, kept echoing in that courtroom long after she sat back down, trembling and sobbing uncontrollably. The courtroom gallery wasn't just watching anymore. They were feeling every ounce of this mother's heartbreak. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. Others exchanged guilty glances, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they had misjudged this whole thing. The judge tightened his jaw, adjusting his glasses with deliberate slowness, as if trying to regain control of the room. Even the prosecutor, confident just minutes ago, avoided eye contact with her. And here's the thing about a mother's love. It doesn't quit. It doesn't shrink. It fights back, louder and wilder with every punch life throws. Her scream wasn't just noise. It was a public declaration, a protest against what she believed was a devastating mistake. And while most people expected the day to be over after the sentence, well, fate clearly had other plans brewing in the shadows. Sitting at his desk in the courtroom, the defense lawyer felt like the biggest failure of his career. This wasn't his first tough case, but something about sending a teenager to a life sentence broke him in ways he hadn't expected. His notes lay scattered like forgotten battle plans. He glanced at the prosecutor, who was already gathering his files with the satisfaction of a job well done. The defense lawyer sighed, ready to pack up and face the family's despair head-on. But just as he reached for his briefcase, his phone buzzed. A single notification, one he almost ignored out of sheer exhaustion. But instinct, or maybe something deeper, made him glance at the screen. The message was brief, almost cryptic. Check the security footage, 3:17 p.m. Something doesn't add up. His heart skipped a beat. No sender name, no explanation. Just that. He looked around the courtroom, suddenly hyper-aware of every face, every movement. The prosecutor had paused mid-step, frowning at the lawyer's sudden change in expression. The judge, busy scribbling final notes, didn't notice a thing. The lawyer's mind raced. Was this a prank? A setup? Or something real? His hands trembled slightly as he stood, already formulating a reason to delay final closure of the case. And here's where life gets interesting. One moment, you're defeated. The next, you're staring at your phone like it holds the key to rewriting a teenager's entire future. With a deep breath, the defense lawyer tucked the phone back in his pocket and made his way toward the courtroom's AV tech area. Something told him the real story was just getting started. The prosecutor couldn't hide his grin. Victory tasted sweet, like that first sip of coffee after pulling an all-nighter. He stuffed his papers into his leather briefcase with dramatic flair, already thinking about the headlines. Prosecutor secures life sentence for teenager. Yeah, that was going to look great on his career resume. His colleagues would clap him on the back, maybe even a promotion on the horizon, but life, as we both know, has a funny way of flipping scripts when you least expect it. Just as he slung the briefcase strap over his shoulder, something tugged at the corner of his eye. The defense lawyer was hunched over by the AV monitors, replaying the courtroom security footage like a man possessed out of sheer curiosity. Or was it pride? The prosecutor wandered closer. He crossed his arms, tilted his head, and prepared to scoff at whatever last-ditch hope the defense was clinging to. But then, he saw it, there, at the exact timestamp mentioned in that mysterious message, 3:17 p.m. The footage showed something that didn't sit right. A shadow, a movement, someone in the hallway who wasn't supposed to be there at that time. The prosecutor squinted, replaying the clip again and again. The person's face wasn't clear, but the body language, suspicious, deliberate, and oddly familiar. His heart rate picked up. The confidence he wore like armor started to crack. Bit by bit, 1,000 courtroom wins couldn't prepare him for this feeling. Doubt creeping in like smoke under a door. The prosecutor glanced at the judge, still busy with paperwork, then back at the screen. Suddenly, the case wasn't as airtight as he'd thought, and what came next? Well, let's just say it was about to shake the entire courtroom to its core. With one final stroke of his pen, the judge was ready to close the case. His gavel sat just inches from his hand, waiting for that definitive slam that would make the teenager's life sentence official and irreversible. He adjusted his glasses, took a slow breath, and prepared to deliver the final statement. After all, procedure was procedure, and this courtroom had already witnessed enough drama for one day, or so he thought. Just as the judge lifted the gavel, the doors burst open with a loud, echoing bang. A courtroom clerk ran in, practically tripping over his own feet, clutching a USB drive like it contained the cure for cancer. Your Honor, new evidence on urgent. The entire room snapped to attention. Conversations halted mid-word. Even the defense lawyer and prosecutor froze, exchanging stunned glances. No one had ever seen a courtroom silent flip from routine to chaos. This quickly, security footage was uploaded onto the main screen within seconds. The entire gallery turned toward the monitors, eyes wide, breaths held. The clip played, showing a figure unaccounted for in the courthouse hallways at exactly 3:17 p.m., the time flagged by the mysterious message. Murmurs spread like wildfire. The prosecutor's jaw clenched. The defense lawyer sat forward like a man reborn. And the teenager's family. Hope flickered in their eyes for the first time that day. The judge sat back, resting his chin on steepled fingers, watching the footage play again and again. You could almost see the internal war happening behind his eyes. Years of experience told him to trust procedure, but every instinct screamed that something bigger was unraveling right in front of him. With a deep breath, he did the unthinkable. He paused the gavel midair, and just like that, the courtroom was thrown into a whole new kind of suspense. In the back corner of the courtroom, the victim's friend sat trembling. Her eyes glued to the floor. She'd managed to stay silent all through the trial, burying the truth under layers of fear and shame. Every time she glanced at the teenager sitting behind the defendant's table, her stomach twisted in knots. But guilt, oh, guilt was a slow, relentless predator, and it had been stalking her for months. Still, she kept her mouth shut until now. When the new security footage played on the big screen, something inside her snapped. Her breathing became shallow, hands shaking uncontrollably. As people gasped and whispered, she stood abruptly, her chair clattering to the floor. "Stop, I can't take this anymore," she screamed. All eyes turned to her as she covered her face with both hands, sobbing uncontrollably. The courtroom silent turned electric. The prosecutor's face drained of color. The defense lawyer stood frozen. Through sobs, she poured out the confession she'd been holding back. She'd lied. Lied about seeing the teenager near the crime scene that night. Lied to protect someone else. Details spilled out like floodwaters. Where she was, who she saw, and what really happened. Names, timelines, everything. She didn't even care that the entire courtroom was staring at her like she was a bomb that had just detonated in the middle of the floor. And here's the wild part. Her words weren't just confessions. They were keys unlocking hidden parts of the case that no one had questioned before. Gasps rippled through the audience. Even the judge leaned forward, gripping the bench tightly. The teenager, still in handcuffs, looked up for the first time all day, eyes wide, heart pounding, sensing that everything was about to change. Again, somewhere in the back row, wedged between reporters and curious onlookers, sat the real culprit, blending in, head down, hoodie pulled tight. Just another face in the crowd. For weeks, he'd watched the trial like a ghost, confident his secret would stay buried. But as the victim's friend broke down moments earlier, you could practically see the color drain from his face. His leg bounced nervously. His hands fidgeted. The courtroom air suddenly felt thin, suffocating. With every replay of the security footage, every gasp, every whispered accusation, the pressure built like a volcano about to erupt. Sweat dripped from his forehead. He glanced at the exits, calculating escape routes, but something stronger kept him glued to the spot. Guilt and fear. When the friend described seeing him that night, the clothes, the argument, the confrontation, it was like being stripped naked in front of the entire courtroom. Then it happened. Without warning, he stood up, sending his chair crashing backward. It was me. I did it. The room froze. For a second, no one moved. Then gasps, shouts, and chaos erupted. Court officers rushed toward him. The judge slammed his gavel again and again, trying to regain control. Reporters grabbed their phones. Typing furiously, the prosecutor's mouth fell open. The defense lawyer stood completely still, blinking as if trying to process what had just happened. And here's where things got truly surreal. People who moments ago were weeping over a life sentence were now staring at the real culprit with burning questions. Why did he do it? Why stay silent for so long? And most importantly, what did this mean for the teenager whose life had been hanging by a thread? The energy in the courtroom had shifted. But trust me, the most dramatic twist was still to come. For a long, tense moment, the judge sat frozen, staring at the man who had just confessed in front of an entire courtroom. Procedure dictated one thing: stick to the original verdict until all formal motions could be filed. The judge's gavel hovered mid-air again, ready to confirm the teenager's life sentence despite the chaos. Years on the bench had taught him to follow facts, not feelings, but today, the facts were shifting right under his feet. As the confession replayed in his mind, the judge's internal struggle became visible. His fingers drummed anxiously on the bench. He reviewed the timeline, the security footage, and the victim's friend's testimony, all unraveling in real time. The defense lawyer stood ready to object. The prosecutor sat speechless, and the courtroom gallery, they held their breath, collectively waiting for the next words out of the judge's mouth. The teenager, still in handcuffs, couldn't even look up. Afraid to hope, then, a voice from the back yelled, from the back, "You have to reopen the case," followed by another, "He's innocent." The room buzzed like a live wire. The judge glanced around, scanning the faces. Mothers, reporters, students, even the court officers looked torn. It wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It felt like a public arena demanding justice in real time. With a heavy sigh that sounded like it carried the weight of the world, the judge finally spoke. "Given the new confession and evidence presented here today, I'm officially reopening this case." The gavel slammed, not as a symbol of closure, but of resurrection. And just like that, what seemed like an ending moments ago turned into a brand new beginning. For hours, the teenager remained in handcuffs, still seated at the defense table, staring at the cold tiles on the floor. Even with the real culprit's confession, there was no immediate freedom. Legal gears grind slowly, and no one moves faster than the court allows. The family watched helplessly, caught between renewed hope and lingering fear. The defense lawyer whispered quick updates, but even his voice shook with uncertainty. When court resumed, both sides approached the bench. The defense lawyer filed an emergency motion to overturn the sentence. The prosecutor, still reeling from the earlier bombshell, had no choice but to agree, at least temporarily. The judge flipped through legal documents, his face unreadable, the entire courtroom silent, hung like fog, thick and impossible to ignore. It felt like everyone was holding one collective breath, waiting. Then finally, with a firm voice and eyes that glistened more than usual, the judge announced, "The life sentence is hereby overturned." Boom, just like that. The teenager's head snapped up. His mother burst into tears so loud it felt like the sound cracked the courtroom walls. The defense lawyer exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. Slapping the teenager on the shoulder with genuine relief, courtroom tears flowed from both sides of the gallery. And here's the thing. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was an emotional earthquake. Reporters scrambled for footage. The teenager's father dropped to his knees in gratitude. People hugged strangers next to them. But before anyone could process the full weight of what just happened, the real grand finale was about to unfold. As the judge's final words echoed through the courtroom, tears poured from nearly every corner of the room. The teenager's mother covered her face, shaking uncontrollably, while relatives reached out to hug her. Even the defense lawyer's eyes glistened, though he quickly wiped them with the back of his hand, pretending it was just dust. Reporters, once focused on capturing scandal, now found themselves capturing something far more human. Raw, unfiltered joy. The judge cleared his throat, gathering himself. With a solemn but relieved tone, he announced, "The defendant is free to go." This case, and was dismissed. That gavel slam hit differently this time, more like a victory bell than a sentence of doom. Court officers quickly unlocked the teenager's handcuffs as they fell to the floor with a soft clank. He stood, shoulders back, head high, still visibly shaking but freer than he'd felt in months. He turned to face the audience, locking eyes with his mother first. She rushed toward him, wrapping him in an embrace that felt like it could melt steel. The courtroom silence that had dominated all day was replaced with soft sobs, sniffles, and then, unexpectedly, a single person stood and began clapping. Another followed, then another. Within seconds, the entire gallery was on its feet in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed, applause filled the room like thunder. Even some courtroom officers joined in, nodding with faint smiles. The teenager walked down the aisle like a champion, leaving the ring after the fight of his life. And as he stepped out into the sunlight for the first time as a free young man, well, let's just say the story was far from over. So, after everything you've just seen, the courtroom tears, the public confession, the teenager walking free after facing a life sentence, you've got to ask yourself, how often do we accept what's presented as truth without digging deeper? How many people right now are sitting behind bars, just waiting for someone to question what seems obvious? Let me challenge you. Next time you hear about a closed case or a done deal, stop and ask, is this really the full story? Because sometimes the truth hides in plain sight, just waiting for the right moment, the right person, or heck, even the right mysterious message to bring it to light. And now, here's where you come in. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Do you believe the justice system gets it right most of the time? Or do you think there are countless teenagers like this one, still waiting for their second chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you want to keep learning about real-life cases, emotional twists, and moments that redefine lives, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next.